podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
He manages to get it wide to Jacob Minter. Good job with the shot, and the Slough Jets have taken the lead on the power play. With the shot cross goal. No need for the save from Lorde, and Campbell finds himself in, and it's 3-1 to the Chelsea Chieftains.
Hello and welcome to Zero Pucks Given, the UK Ice Hockey Podcast. Remember, we are not just a podcast, we're a one-stop media shop for the NIHL 1 South and beyond, doing live game updates, live stream commentary, the very exciting Hockey Night Live. If you want to get involved as a sponsor or a roving rink reporter, let me know. And of course, hopefully, we'll be doing live streaming ourselves. Firstly, I'd like to talk to you about our partners, starting with Hockey Art Co, who create hockey-inspired clothing that is so creative and artistic and excellent quality too. With all sorts of clothing items for on and off ice, including awesome band-themed jerseys, as well as training gear and casual wear, listeners to the ZPG network get a 10% discount on everything from hockeyartclothing.co.uk when you use the code ZP10. We are also in partnership with Manscaped, the globally recognised male grooming brand that have top-of-the-range products such as the Lawnmower, the Weed Whacker, the Beard Hugger and the Dome Shaver Pro. These products are absolutely brilliant. I use them all myself. They've got ceramic blades, so no cuts and no nicks. They're waterproof so that you can use them in the shower or you can use them in the bath. Makes it really easy to get rid of all the excess hair. And the lawnmower also has a light, which makes it really good for those hard-to-see areas. Plus, super fast charging and a long run time make these the best wireless shavers on the market. You can get 20% off of everything at manscaped.com when you use the code 0pucks20. And finally, we are part of the Sports Social Podcast Network, the largest sport podcast network in Europe, hosting over 500 podcasts from more than 20 different sports. And we're absolutely delighted that the ZPG network of Zero Pucks Given and ZPG Ice Maidens is a part of it. Hello, welcome along. This is episode 142. I'm Ben, and this is Zero Pucks Given, coming to you live from Fuerteventura in the Canary Islands in my mum's craft room. It's like a little tour after episode 99 from the playoffs was from my auntie's kitchen in Waltham Abbey. This time, though, I'm melting in the sun whilst it's freezing at home. Sorry, not sorry. Thank you so much to all listening to the Roundup episode last week, our first one back of 2025, and I thought it was a really, really good one. Thank you as well to everyone who has voted so far in the podcast Sport Podcast Awards. The vote is now closed. It closed on Monday the 13th at midnight. In the laps of the gods now, and the winners will be revealed on January 30th. So we look forward to that coming out on social media. Some news from the Britain Division, well, every division of the NIHL conferences. The tickets are now available for the Steel City Showdown, the historic playoff finals weekend, as the finals of the Britain, the Moralee, the Wilkinson and the Laidler will all take place on Saturday the 12th of April, and Sunday the 13th will see the North winners take on the South winners, as we will get a national champion from each conference division. Weekend tickets are available now at the discounted price of £54 for adults and £36 for children and concessions, with a family pass for 2 adults and 2 children for £160. These discounted prices are available up until Valentine's Day, February 14th. And of course, don't forget, at the end of February, start of March, we will be giving away 1 pair of tickets to the Shepherd Weekend to 1 lucky winner. So keep your eyes peeled on the socials for just how we're going to do that, and then you can get involved with that competition. Another bit of news for hockey fans. Long-time listeners may remember that early on in ZPG, I was joined by Frankie Sabini and a little later James Ayling, both former Chelmsford Chieftains players, but Frankie, an aspiring writer, and James, an accomplished actor, producer and director, have created The Enforcer. Due now to be made into a feature-length film, but the short is now available on YouTube. Jonas Armstrong plays the part of the Enforcer as the film studies the darker side of the characters that play the game, including the struggles of mental health and physical deterioration as you go through playing the game. I implore every single one of you, if you have not yet seen The Enforcer, once you finish listening to this, of course, go and watch it. There's a link to it in the episode description just down there. If you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you'll find that link in the description as well. And a massive congratulations to James and Frankie on what is an incredible piece of work. Department of Player Safety then, DOPS news. Firstly, to Swindon, George Howe receives 2 games for fighting an unwilling opponent. To Milton Keynes Thunder, where Alistair Barrow also receives 2 games for fighting an unwilling opponent. And Jared Vigor receives 3 games for an illegal check to the head. Finally to Cardiff, where obviously them and MK got into it a little bit last week. Joe Llewellyn has received 2 games for fighting with 2 unwilling opponents and receives an extra 2 games for reaching 10 penalty points. So 4 games in total for the big rig. Let's get into this week's action then. There were 8 games in total. Details a little bit sketchy on some, and bearing in mind I'm actually away and not at work, I was getting it done a little bit earlier. But we'll work with what we have, and we start in East London at the Sapphire Leisure Centre as the Cardiff Fire face the Romford Buccaneers. The Bucks return to action for 2025 with the visit of the Fire, and an even first period saw the sides level at 2 apiece, including a shorthander from Chris Kajanovs for Cardiff. The second period saw Romford take a firm grip on the game as Jure Huška did more damage to the Welsh defence, and the Bucks came out with 4 unanswered goals. The third again saw domination from the home side as Romford finished the game 12-3 victors. Goals coming from Niels Maskelans, Elliot Dervish and Luca Pascal, with a brace from Kobe Griddle Park, a hat-trick from Shea Woolmore, and a 4-goal night for Jure Huška. Bailey Hine-Pitcher and Lewis Stevens, plus the shorty from Chris Kajanovs, getting Cardiff Fire on the board. For Romford, a Sunday night trip to the Oxpens, whilst the Fire will return home, flames dampened, preparing for the visit of the Slough Jets. The Riverside in Chelmsford saw an enormous sellout crowd for the visit of the Solent Devils, only the second time the two have clashed this season after an early season 5-4 victory for the Devils in Gosport. A familiar face back in the Chieftains lineup as injuries blight Clifford's roster, Lee Jameson stepped back into D for the home side. A nervy start to the game as the away side seemed comfortable to sit deep and then look to break on the counter. Saw the Chieftains try to create plays through the neutral zone, hemming the Devils in, and they found a way through on 7:25 when Cam Bartlett assisted Grant Bartlett to finish well, making it 1-0. From the restart, the Devils forced a turnover in the neutral zone, and a nice forward play between Sutton and Harry Harkup saw the former Chieftain slip home a fast leveller as he made it 1-1 on 7:50. On 8:08, Cloutman found himself in the box for boarding, and less than halfway through the penalty kill, Lackey was called for tripping on 8:57, giving the Chieftains more than a minute of 5-on-3. An opportunity which they took, as great work from Power and Cam Bartlett saw Hall and Barnes-Garner finish well from close range to make it 2-1 Chelmsford on 9:37, power play goal. After returning to 5-on-5, the Devils tried to push a little higher up the ice, but Alan Lack pounced on a blue line error from Alex Murray, who chased the puck down, only to be met by an outrushing Aaron Taylor. After the two collided, the Chieftains retained possession as Cam Bartlett squared to Grant Bartlett, who lashed home his second into the empty net, making it 3-1 Chelmsford on 15:35. As the period wound to a close, a late charging penalty for Grant Bartlett saw the Devils have the advantage from the first and into the second. After returning to full strength, the Chieftains found themselves heading back and forward to the penalty box with almost an expected consistency. Firstly, Kieran Rayner for interference on 23:57, followed by John Connolly for hooking on 27:32, a few seconds of 5-on-3 as Lee Jameson sat for hooking on 29:14, followed by Connolly again for delay of game on 31:18, finished off by Tom Ravenscroft for holding on 38:52. In all honesty, for me, the Connolly slashing penalty was the only one worthy, but despite that, the Devils, whose power play setup is normally lethal, were unable to break through their host penalty kill unit. Into the third, and the Chieftains stretched their lead early when Cam Bartlett and Lack did the hard work, allowing Grant Bartlett to sweep home his hat-trick from the right circle, making it 4-1 Chelmsford on 41:12. On 44:25, dogged work by the Chieftains captain saw him forechecking aggressively and forcing errors, enabling him to retrieve the puck and score as Alan Lack makes it 5-1 Chelmsford on 44:35. With just over 13 minutes to go, Solent called their timeout and pulled Aaron Taylor for Rory Martin-Edwards before Connor Hutchinson requested to drop gloves with Grant Bartlett, resulting in both sitting for 5. Just after that altercation, Ollie Clackett landed a hit on John Connolly that Cam Bartlett and Alan Lack took exception to, resulting in both Lack and Bartlett sitting for 2 for roughing, along with Devils captain Callum Perella-Fox, who did his bit for the team as well. 2 minutes each for all those 3 lads, all for roughing at 49-28. With the Devils having a man advantage, this time they broke through as Russell and Coleman assisted Cam Buckle, who smashed home from the left circle to make it 5-2 on 50-53 power play goal. A clash between Lack and Cackett alerted the officials to an illegal equipment penalty. From what I understand, Ollie Cackett's face cage was open, resulting in the penalty. The home side pinned the Devils in and eventually broke through with a close-range finish from Callum Wells. Power on the assist, as Wells made it 6-2 Chelmsford on 54-07 power play goal. On 56-33, Richie Pickering took a trip to the box for roughing, where another good power play set up from Solent saw them pull it back to 3 again, as Murray and Cloutman laid on for a close-range finish for Liam Coleman, making it 6-3 on 57-13 power play goal. As the game headed to the final seconds, Callum Wells was called for holding, much to the disgust of Chieftains head coach Lewis Clifford on 58-50, quickly followed by Lee Jameson sitting for hooking and Solent's Kane Russell sitting for misconduct, all on the same sort of minute. The crowd began to count the seconds down to the buzzer, and a goalmouth scramble saw Buckle's shot tipped in on the rebound at close range by Ryan Sutton, making it 6-4 on 59-59. A thoroughly entertaining game, a great advert for hockey at this level. The Chieftains will head to the stables on Sunday to take on the Invicta Dynamos in what is the first of three very difficult doubleheader weekends for the third place side. But for the Devils, just the one game this week, and after the defeat, Solent Devils player coach Alex Murray gave his thoughts to ZPG.
Yeah, so single fixture week for the Devils this past weekend, and travelled for the first time this season to Chelmsford, the Riverside, to take on the Chieftains, and we knew it was going to be a pretty tough game with them at home, sell-out crowd. We identified that actually, had we get a good result there, we would move level on points with them, although they'd have had 2 games in hand. And we were almost at full strength for the first time this year, but still 2 or 3 of the senior guys missing from the lineup, as well as 6 to 8 depth pieces. But we still took a relatively strong team there, and we are probably something that people have heard before on the ones that listen, that we just struggle with starts. Normally on a double header weekend, but this time we just were a bit flat, and you can't be flat in Chelmsford. They came out, went into an early lead, a bit of a miscommunication in D, and as usual, one of the Bartletts coming up with a goal. We answered straight back, and that was really good. But waiting to the end of the first 3-1 down, and from there on, really, it's probably the strangest game I've probably ever been a part of. We spent the vast majority of it on the power play. I mean, their play was aggressive and sometimes over the top, and the referee held them to account to that. But the problem that we've got is 2 things should happen from that point. If the way that they're playing is not acceptable or fair, you either have to punish them on the power play or stand up for you. And that's often when you look at things like fights between teams happen, is because of people not wanting to see the types of play that was happening. And we at the start did neither. We didn't punish them on the power play, or didn't choose to pick a fight. And in the second, I think we probably had 5 power plays, including a 5-3, and we hit the post, the crossbar. Lord A came out with a couple of good saves, but actually we weren't clinical enough, not good enough. It's easy to sit here and say that we hit the post and crossbar, and one of them bounced over the stick on an empty net, which was mine, but we just weren't good enough in the second. We weren't clinical enough, and we outshot them every period of the game, but that wasn't the story. The third was better. We changed the power play units. But when I mean better, I mean it wasn't better in terms of gameplay. It was better on the power play. We scored 2 at the dying embers of the game, but we were long gone then, 6-1, and still back on power play. And yeah, we did score at the end, and we did Hutchie in the end drop the gloves, which is good. But yeah, a real strange game. A game where all the stats show that we outshot them. We had all the power plays, but really never really felt in the game in terms of 5-on-5. They dominated that, and we were a bit lacklustre. That said, we could have easily been leaving that game with a win, and we didn't deserve it. But when you have so many power play opportunities, because a team like that is giving you those opportunities, you have to take them. And whether you're playing good or bad, if you're on the power play that much, you should take your chances. And they took theirs on the power play very clinically, and at 5-on-5 they took theirs. So yeah, a tough one to take. Had we have got any points out of it, I think Chelmsford would have felt aggrieved. But as I mentioned to you, we definitely had the possession and chances in terms of the special team opportunities we got. But they were much more clinical than us, as the Butlers normally are. And we weren't good enough. We weren't clinical enough, and we paid the price ultimately. And yeah, Chelmsford took the points, and we dust ourselves off. Now we've got the semi-finals in the Cup against Slough, and we've got to start those hard and fast. We've got to be ready for those 2 fixtures. Starting off at home, they're going to be coming hard. If we can get a good result at our place, fingers crossed we can go to Slough and get a positive result and hopefully see ourselves through the final.
Slough Jets welcome the Swindon Wildcats to the hangar as they started a double-header weekend, looking for the 6-pointer that could take them back to the top of the Britain Division. Led out by Matt Smittle, making his 86th Jets appearance, taking him to 6th in the all-time list for goalies, creeping towards Brett Shepherd in 5th with 111. Through the first 10 minutes, both sides swapped penalties as Stone sat for hooking for Swindon, followed by Clark for holding for Slough. But with both teams even-handed and heading into the final few minutes, the home side broke through when Christian Moore and Timo Lindgren assisted Benny Lee Newman to make it 1-0 Slough on 17:04. As Swindon tried to find a way back in, they were called for a too-many-men bench penalty on 19:12. Penalty killed, and into the second, Christian Moore took a slashing penalty on 26:52, and as Swindon set up, Nethersell and Costal assisted Charlie Turner to make it 1-1 on 27:12, power play goal. The second remained tight, but with chances at both ends, it finished 1-1. Into the second, and the home side took off at speed, and then took the lead when Goodchild assisted Juha Lindgren to continue his fine form since his return, as he made it 2-1 Slough on 40:48. The Jets extended their lead when Christian Moore and Clark assisted Benny Lee Newman for his second goal of the evening, making it 3-1 Slough on 46:36. The home side then went on the kill when Alex Cole took 2 for slashing on 51:02, but after winning the puck in defence, Lydiard assisted Ollie Hemmings-Mayer to make it 4-1 Slough on 51:21 with a short-handed goal. The scoring was finished soon after when Juha Lindgren assisted Christian Moore to make it 5-1 Slough on 54:13. The Jets killed off a late Ely Newman penalty as they completed the first part of their weekend with the full 3 points. For the Jets, it's a Sunday night trip to Cardiff down the M4, whilst the Wildcats will return home to face the MK Thunder. To the high road as the Streatham Redhawks welcome the Invicta Dynamos. Games between these two are either notoriously eventful or notoriously tight, as this one had the flavour more of the latter. The Redhawks took an early penalty for too many men, but killed off the man disadvantage well. Both sides having chances, but neither looking to commit early on. Into the second, and both sides swapped penalties as Dan Scott for Invicta for holding and Warman for Streatham for interference took seats separately, but neither goalie looked in too much trouble. Into the third, and Warman headed back to the box for tripping early, and Streatham nearly forced a short-handed goal, but Winterbank was equal to it, before the Moes were back on the kill after Lillis took a seat for interference. Tempers flared a little when Regan O'Neill and Ethan Lane dropped gloves from a face-off, seeing both get 2+5 for unsportsmanlike and fighting. A late power play chance for Streatham after Laming sat for tripping, but Brad Winterbank was channeling a "thou shalt not pass" mantra. Into overtime we went, and after winning the draw, the Redhawks attacked down the left-hand side with Ben Painter, who snipes into the goal from the left circle to give Streatham the extra point, with the game-winning goal just 13 seconds into the overtime period. 1 point and heartbreak for the Dynamos, who will head home to face the Chieftains on Sunday night. For the Red Hawks, a one-game weekend that they take 2 points from. After the game, Streatham player coach and game winner Ben Painter gave his thoughts to ZPG.
Yeah, one game weekend against Invicta. Saturday night at home is always a good crowd, especially when playing Invicta. It's always a sort of a well-attended game. Usually lots of goals and lots of talking points, shall we say. And yeah, I think it was obviously the complete opposite. Game ended 0-0 with us then managing to win 1-0 in overtime. Disappointed not to get it done in the third period. I think we had a really good third. At this point we couldn't get it done in regulation, get the 3 points, but you know what, 2 points is better than none or one. So yeah, I'm pleased we managed to get a win out of it. Realistically, I don't think we were great. I think we had a very messy first period, a bit sloppy at times. I think we got better in the second, and then again got probably better in the third. And I think we were unlucky to not score, to be honest. I think it was one of them games. That being said, Invicta did defend well. They kept us to the outside, limited our scoring chances, our grade A scoring chances, and their netminder had a good game and made some big stops. I think we did dominate most of the play though. I think we had lots of possession in their end, and on another night, it's probably a little bit of a different scoreline. We hit the post a couple of times, and Brad and their net played well. So, yeah, frustrating not to put the puck in the net, but at the end of the day, that's the name of the game. And if we're not putting the puck in the net, we're not going to win hockey games in regulation. So, yeah, I think defensively we were pretty solid. I think we dealt with everything Invicta threw at us, and kept everything to the outside, made it difficult for them. And Brett had a really good game in net as well. It was a night for goalies. So, yeah, stopped everything that was thrown at him and made some nice saves on the night to sort of keep us in a chance to win a hockey game. So, yeah, all in all, probably not our best performance of the year. But at the end of the day, we need to be clinical when we're out shooting teams like we did on Saturday night. We need to be putting the puck in the back of the net. So we'll be working on things in training on Thursday for the weekend, and we look forward to a big cup semi-final weekend with Chelmsford this weekend.
On to Sunday, and the Swindon Wildcats hosted the MK Thunder as the two renewed their rivalries. The home side got back on the horse after Saturday night defeat in Slough and hashed out a 5-2 victory against the Thunder, whose side were missing a few through injury, suspension, and hampered by their two-way players being unavailable. No further details on that game, I'm afraid, but Will Fry, as usual, was honest and able to take positives from their performance.
Yeah, some thoughts from our game yesterday down in Swindon against the Wildcats, NIHL 1 team. Missing a lot of bodies, obviously some suspensions carried over from the Cardiff game. The Storm under-19s had a game in Milton Keynes, top of the table clash, so obviously some of the younger guys wanted to go and play there and enjoy that one. And we were missing some of our Guildford guys as well. I think they had a game against Haringey, under 18. So, yeah, we found ourselves a little bit short bench with injuries as well. So, first of all, just a big thank you to Cardiff Canucks for the loan of 3 guys. So we had Jack White and Sam Davies and Noah Betts join us yesterday to guest, which took us to sort of 2.5, 3 lines, just about. So it was one of the games you go into it against a Swindon team that's been doing really well this season. I really like the way they play. Very well structured, bring good energy. They got some good talent, good young talent in that team. So it's always an enjoyable encounter. So yeah, it was going into it with no illusions. It was going to be a difficult game for us, but gave us the opportunity to give some of the fringe guys that have maybe been on the periphery of the lineup this season some opportunities to step in and demonstrate what they've got in a slightly bigger role. And fair play to them, and full credit to the group that we had down there. We put in a really good performance. I think the game was swung on a 10-minute spell in the first period where we didn't defend the zone well at all. Didn't really react to what Swindon were trying to do and adapt, the way that we were playing the defensive side of things, and let them continue to put the puck in dangerous areas. And it cost us 2 goals in the first. I mean, the first goal was a bit of a freak, but I think it would have gone in against any team. And then, we got in after the first period and addressed a couple of things. We made some changes to some systems yesterday at the start of the game just to challenge the guys and thought it was the way that we could get something out of it. And I think it worked pretty well, so it might be something that we explore for the rest of the season in looking at how we adapt our playing style. But second and third, we came out, we did really, really well. 2 tied periods again, very competitive and managed to maintain our energy levels till the end. I think we had some chances that on a different day, if they go in, the game potentially is different and we might get something out of it. But it's all in all a good performance from us. It's, yes, it's another loss on the scoreboard, but it wasn't a game that got away from us. It was a game that we always were in with a chance until sort of maybe 10 minutes to go when they got their fifth. But I liked our fight. I liked our compete. It gives us a headache now with some of the guys that have been fighting for Ice Time. Now they've got their opportunity. For those maybe more senior players or guys higher up the order that are coming back in, it's going to be interesting to see how we select that team moving forward, and certainly prove themselves capable of playing at this level and maintaining the standards that we set. And it's going to be hard for me to select a team, I think, when we're back at full strength for our next game after the break next weekend. So, thanks again to Cardiff Canucks, and thanks to Swindon, always great hosts, and we look forward to playing them again at home later in the season.
And after gaining another home victory, Wildcats head coach Ken Forsey gave his thoughts to ZPG.
Good weekend for us. We came into the weekend realistically definitely wanting 3 points. Kind of gave Slough a little bit of a scare last night, being 1-1 end of the second. To be fair, I didn't think they were at their best, and I didn't think we were at our best, actually. I thought we had another gear to get into. We weren't skating particularly well, lost a little bit of zip in our game. Tonight we came out pretty well, got the lead. I think, for us, we need a little bit more killer instinct as we got the game in hand. We can't lay back. We can't coast. We got to keep the foot down and get the job done. But overall, we got the 3 points. Keep moving up the standings as far as, separating ourselves from the teams behind us. And we're in a good spot here. So weekend off next week. Rest up, and 2 big games coming up in 2 weeks' time against Solent and Invicta. So hopefully we'll be at full strength and be able to give them a go that weekend.
Slough made the near 100 miles Sunday night trip to Cardiff, where they were in no mood to hang about. Knowing that Streatham were taken to overtime the night before meant they were already top of the table after their victory against Swindon. The Jets took the lead early when Cole assisted Jack Goodchild to make it 1-0 Slough on 103. The talented forward was at it again soon after when Miles assisted Jack Goodchild for his second, making it 2-0 Slough on 4:15. On 8:12, Ely Newman and Quinn took to having a mid-ice disagreement, seeing both sit for 5, extra 2 for Ely Newman for roughing. Miles was on the assists again when he and English combined to lay on for Jacob Soper to make it 3-0 Slough at 15:49. At the start of the second, the Jets resumed their missile lock on the fire goal and went further ahead when Cole and Juha Lindgren assisted Jack Goodchild for his hat-trick goal, making it 4-0 on 21:28. The Fire had to kill off a Spridgen tripping penalty, but with the home side back to full strength, the visitors scored again when Juha Lindgren assisted Jack Goodchild for his 4th goal of the night, making it 5-0 Slough on 26:37. Shortly after that, the Jets scored again when Cole and Cave Humphrey assisted captain Connor Redman, who had been a big miss for the Jets for most of this season. He made it 6-0 Slough on 26:37. The Fire were back on the kill, but a successful one after High Pitcher took 2 for tripping on 33:49. But the Jets scored again even-handed when Minter notched his 50th assist for the Slough Jets, as he and Redmond assisted Carl Bradburn to make it 7-0 Slough on 37:26. Cardiff took a too-many-men bench penalty right near the end of the second, but managed to keep the PP unit at bay again. Into the third, and Cardiff found themselves on the end of some pretty ruthless attacking from the Jets, as Redmond assisted Carl Bradburn for his second to make it 8-0 Slough on 45:43. Penalties on both sides, as Soper and James sat for cross-checking and hooking respectively, but as the game wound down and with both teams even-handed, the Jets scored again when Cave Humphrey assisted Dylan Holliker to make it 9-0 Slough on 57:10. Before the game was out, the visitors ensured their flying visit would be a memorable one, as Miles and Holliker assisted Juha Lindgren to make it 10-0 Slough, 58-27. An almost vicious performance from the league leaders, who have started the year well and now hold a 3-point lead at the top of the Britain Division table. For Cardiff, 0 points as they will go into 2 weeks of practice to prepare for the visit of Invicta and the trip to Oxford. Looking for positives though is Cardiff Fire player coach Ellis Shepherd.
Saturday was very much a tale of two halves. We started the first period against Romford really strong, ended the period 2-2. I think we were unlucky not to be a few goals up as well. Some really good offensive and defensive play. We continued into the second period very much the same. Unfortunately, we ran into a little bit of penalty trouble, and Romford scored 2 on the bounce on the PK, and it deflated us. And there was just no bounce back from the boys, and ultimately Romford ran out deserved winners. We would go to Slough on the Sunday, which is a very difficult game in any circumstances, let alone without a lot of injuries. And you just got to take your hats off to Slough. They're just probably the most complete team in this league this season. I mean, evidently they showed it in the prelim games as well against Bristol Pitbulls, where they beat the national side 2-1 as well. So we always knew it was going to be a difficult game, and yeah, just hats off to Slough. They're just probably the complete package this year, and rightfully at the top of the league for many reasons. Very difficult weekend for us, but really happy to see that our youth is still coming through the development with young Brock and Evans, 17-year-olds, having his first 2 starts, and we continue to reward our young guys with ice time and opportunities as well, and they're not letting us down.
Finding out a home win against Solent on the Saturday, the Chieftains head into Invicta, where it's never an easy night's work for anyone, but the visitors took the lead on the second shift when Power and Jameson assisted Hall and Barnes Garner to make it 1-0 Chelmsford on 1:20. An end-to-end first 10 minutes with chances at both ends, but as we ticked into the second half of the period, the home side levelled up the game when Thune and Laming assisted Harrison Lillis to make it 1-1. Lillis, something of a pantomime villain between these two sides, so I'm sure that was an interesting atmosphere. A bit of penalty trouble for both sides as Wells and Lack took 2 each for charging, while Springer Hughes sat for hooking, all at 12:49. All penalties killed, the chances continued as Moes give their visitors plenty to think about. Into the second, the Chieftains found themselves in penalty trouble again in the second period, as Russell sat for 2 for tripping, followed by Rayner for tripping, and Power for delay of game, giving the Moes a 5-on-3 advantage. Chieftains returned to 4, but the home side did break through when Lillis and Springer Hughes assisted Regan O'Neill to make it 2-1 to Invicta on 29-10, power play goal. The visitors pulled it back to a tied game when Barnes Garner and Power assisted Sasha Maltsev as the Ukrainian forward kept up his impressive form this season, making it 2-2 on 36-22. However, straight from the restart, the home side retook the lead when Springer Hughes assisted Brandon Chard to make it 3-2 Invicta on 36-34. Into the third, and whilst Invicta were looking to hold on or maybe even increase their lead, they were caught as Jameson and Maltsev assisted Mikey Power to make it 3-3 on 42-35. The Chieftains smelt blood in the water and quickly pounced on that leveller to take the lead as Barnes Garner and Sasha Maltsev assisted Sasha Maltsev for his second of the night as the visitors completed the fast turnaround, making it 4-3 on 45-56. And the impressive second-line trio were back causing trouble again soon after, where Maltsev and Barnes Garner assisted Mikey Power for his second goal of the night, making it 5-3 Chelmsford on 47-23. The Chieftains killed off a power play after a Rayner unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, and the score remained 5-3. A weekend of just 1 point for the Dynamos, but positives to take from the performances for Invicta head coach Carl Lennon.
Strong opposition for us this weekend in the form of Streatham away from home on Saturday, and then we welcomed Chelmsford on Sunday night to our place. The game on Saturday was a pretty tense affair throughout. I mean, probably not the most exciting game for the viewers on the night in terms of the scoreline, but for us as coaches, I'm sure was one we were happy with. The defensive displays of our teams. I thought it was a fairly evenly matched game where kind of both teams cancelled each other out for large spells, and of course they had some chances, but we also had equally as many and some really good ones. We were unfortunate and saved by the post on a few occasions not to take a lead at certain places, and I was super happy with the boys and how they performed on the night. You know, it's no small task shutting out the league champions in their own rink, and we did that for, you know, the regulation game at least. And you know, Brad was fantastic in goal, but it was a display by the team as well too, defensively that was really strong, and obviously was very happy with that. And I think really for us, you know, there's a little misfortune in the overtime right at the start there, where James Lammy's stick snaps. We have to make a fly change very, very quickly into the play, and you know, we got caught out on an odd man with a 3-on-2, and yeah, they step in and score, and that's that done. And you know, I thought we deserved at least a point out of the game, and maybe more. And I guess there's lots of positives that we could take out and away from that night. Moving to Sunday, of course, we had some confidence, and you know, we didn't start well. We conceded very, very, very early on in the game, and of course, Chelmsford had some confidence based upon that. So our first 5 minutes was poor, but as the period grew, we grew stronger, and I think we were level at the period break, and I thought we were good for that leveler. We made a really nice play in their zone, kept them camped in for a little while, and then Harry stepped in and put away a really, really nice goal. And then, you know, the second period was a bit of back and forth. We scored, they scored, we scored again. So we had that lead to protect into the third. And, you know, I said to the boys leading into that third period that, you know, we played 5 solid periods of hockey this weekend, and we just needed to close it out with one in order to get the 3 points. And we just didn't do that in that third period. I think we backed off them. You know, in the rest of the game, we've been really sort of quite forceful with a lot of our plays, and had joy as a result of that. But I think with the lead and trying to protect it, we just were a little bit static, and we could have been more aggressive, and we weren't. And ultimately, they got a goal pretty quickly in the third period, and then another one shortly followed, and that was us chasing the game then. And they picked us off at the end with another, and you know, it's a shame of a result really for us. I think if you reflect upon the weekend, we take away 1 point out of the 2 games, and I thought we probably were deserving of more than that. But that's life, that's hockey, and we just have to move on from there. So the positive for me, of course, is that we compete against 2 very good sides, and you know, it was a good game on Sunday, at least for the audience to watch as well too. So we have another week off coming. Obviously, it's the semi-final week, so those teams will be battling it out, and we then come back the following week with a double-header away from home against Cardiff and Swindon. So looking forward to that.
And after his side took a 6-point weekend from a very hard weekend on paper, Chelmsford head coach Lewis Clifford will take the points, but wants more from his team as they head into a very important weekend.
Yeah, tough weekend for us this weekend. I think going into it, we knew we were going to have to play well against both teams. You know, they're both teams that can and will cause upsets, and have done this season. You know, Solent beat us in their building earlier in the year, and Invicta gave us very close, well, a real scare earlier on in the year in their building as well. So it was one of those weekends where there isn't like an easy game, tough game. Like, it was 2 games that we knew if we didn't play right, we'd struggle to win. So Saturday's game, I wasn't happy with, to be honest with you. Although a win is a win, and that is always our objective. Our team discipline was really just not good enough. The procession to the penalty box, particularly through the second period, and a couple in the third, just made that game so much closer than it ever needed to be. You know, we scored 6. I think if we'd have put our shooting sticks with us, we probably could have scored 10. And I'm not being disrespectful to Solent. We had that many grade A chances that we didn't convert, and I never get annoyed by someone not scoring a goal. Like, no one's ever tried to not score a goal. But yeah, we did carve out some real clear-cut chances that we didn't convert. But then to let them get 4 by just continuously putting them on the power play was just stupidity, really, and unacceptable. And it's something that we have to learn, and we have to learn from. We have to learn quickly. It's something we used to do when I first came to this club, and we've stopped doing. And every now and then we have a little relapse where we just have a game where everyone just decides to go and sit in that little glass box next to the bench, and it's not okay. And the guys that did it know it's not okay, and it can't continue. Credit to Solent for keep plugging away and making that game close in the end. But in reality, we allowed them to make it close rather than them forcing their way back into it. And that's something that on another day against another team, or even on another day when we haven't scored quite so many goals ourselves, that can bite us. So yeah, 3 points is 3 points, and ultimately that is the objective every time we rock up to a game. So we rolled into Invicta, and it's a place we know is hard to play. It's never been easy to play in there. I feel like it gets harder to play in there every time we go there. The ice gets worse, the boards get worse, and it's never a surprise, and it never should be a surprise to anyone, whether it's someone who's paying to get in and watch the game or someone who's got to play in the game. But I felt we played fairly well in the first. Second wasn't great, and third we really turned it around. I think the gauntlet was kind of laid down to the boys at the end of the second there, that do you actually understand what this means? We're behind in this game. We need to win these games in regulation. We cannot just go through the motions and see what happens. But we've got to turn it on. We've got to turn it on now. And the boys responded brilliantly to that. There was a few more penalties than I would have liked, but nowhere near the level of Saturday. But the fact we never had a power play all night was a joke. A couple of our players got some serious treatment that, just nothing. Just looking, no, arms not going up. I guess we're not getting one tonight then. And it got actually kind of laughable towards the end with some of the stuff that was going on, particularly to some of our young players or our sort of skilled, faster players that were just getting grabbed and thrown on the floor and jumped on. And that's all right, play on. So it is what it is. Refs have a tough job to do. They see things clearly differently to how I do, but it certainly wasn't a game that I'd look at and go, oh yeah, the team in black should have 6 penalty kills and the team in white shouldn't have any tonight. But we move on. We move on to a very tough proposition this weekend where we play Streatham back-to-back in a cup semi-final, and in the cup context it is win or go home, because we literally will know by the end of Sunday whether we're still in the cup or we're out of it. And Streatham are a tough team. We've played them twice this year, won one, lost one. Could even continue in that vein this weekend, but obviously if a team wins both games this weekend they'll definitely be going through rather than bringing aggregate into it. And we're really looking forward to the game. Thanks to everyone who came and supported us this weekend. Obviously we had a massive sellout at home, and then the away following on Sunday in Invicta was absolutely outstanding. So thank you very much to everybody that came out this weekend, and we look forward to seeing you at one or both of the games this weekend.
The final game of the weekend saw the Romford Buccaneers head up to the Oxpens to face the City Stars. The Stars win the draw and immediately put the pressure on their visitors as Cook and Hemmings-Mayer assisted Chris Beckett to make it 1-0 Oxford on just 2:29. The Bucks then had to kill off a Callum Burnett penalty and did so well before Jure Hushka tried to make his way through the Oxford D, but was stopped by Ross Miller. On 11:25, Joe Covey was sacked for 2 minutes, and with the man advantage, Burnett assisted Jure Hushka for his 5th goal of the weekend, making it 1-1 on 12:13, power play goal. Wilmore took a seat for interference shortly after the goal, but the Stars couldn't break the Bucks' PK. Wilmore headed back to the box for misconduct on 19:22, giving the Stars an advantage at the start of the second. 1-1 at the end of the first, despite Romford outshooting their hosts 21-8. Into the second, with the Stars on the power play, they lost the puck early and found themselves conceding as Romford turned the game around with an unassisted goal from Luca Pascal as he made it 2-1 Romford on 20:15, short-handed goal. Not the start the Stars would have wanted. Both teams back to full strength, and the Stars did work an opening and pulled themselves level when Felix Hemmings-Mayer assisted Mario Kiru to make it 2-2 on 23:47. The seesaw tipped again in this game as Hushka and Campbell assisted Niels Muscallans to make it 3-2 Bucks on 25:25. There were penalties for both, and Covey for Oxford and Muscallans for Romford sat for holding and slashing respectively, but once both teams returned to full strength, the Bucks extended their lead when Hushka assisted Luca Pascal for his second of the night to make it 4-2 Romford on 34:04. A much more even period on the stats, shots at 14 each, but Romford take the best of the second. Into the third, and the visitors hit the ice running yet again when Pascal and Hushka assisted Elliot Dervish to make it 5-2 Romford on 41:12. Despite having to kill a late Williams penalty, the Bucks played through the third period with a great deal of professionalism to take the 5-2 victory in Oxford, much to the enjoyment of head coach Jason Buckman.
Yeah, good to get a 6-point weekend on the board. Some valuable league points. Saturday's game against Cardiff, first period, felt like we probably took the whole period to really get going, which is probably going to be the case after 3 weeks off over Christmas and New Year. Once we did, we started to, create lots of chances and have a bit more possession. Similar game Sunday really in Oxford. First period again took us a bit to get going, but once we got possession and started creating chances and creating lots of shooting opportunities, it was good to see a lot of the guys get on the scoreboard over the course of the weekend, and it wasn't the most polished performances Saturday or Sunday really. So lots of detail to work on next couple of weeks before we face Streatham.
And looking forward to the 2 weeks of uninterrupted training, City Stars head coach Mark Saunders.
Another one-game weekend for the Oxford City Stars as we took on the Romford Buccaneers at home on Sunday night. Was impressed with our start. I think we got off to a really good start, a lot of energy. We spoke about some things pre-game and wanted to really make sure that we were trying to get into good habits early on, and we did that. I think the first period was two teams kind of feeling each other out. And then the second, we got out and unfortunately conceded 14 seconds in, and it kind of put us, on the back foot a little bit, and we were chasing the game from there. I liked a lot of what we did. I liked our energy. I liked our push. We just didn't play the lopsided plays in a successful way, I don't think, last night. A couple of 2-on-1s and some 3-on-2s, 1-on-0s. They just didn't pan out our way, but that's the bounces, and we need to work harder because there's no excuses for, not putting the puck in the net. You just need to be a little bit better with your choices, and we'll do that as we get into a weekend off here. But we've got 2 weeks of practice before we take on Cardiff Fire at the Oxbens in a couple of weeks' time. So lots to work on, lots of positives from last night, and lots to work on in 2 weeks of practice. And big thanks to the Oxford City Stars fans that were loud and proud the whole game last night.
Well, Bosh, what a jam-packed weekend. So many games, so many goals. 3 6-point weekends. So let's have a look at this.
Hi, it's Justin Wong, Kenny Wu from the Muddy Ducks, presenting Zero Pucks Given Britain Division Player of the Week.
Player of the week then, well, it's going to come from one of those 6-point teams. Now, unfortunately, due to their Saturday night game being a little bit shy in the details, I'm not sure exactly how good his weekend was, but with at least 3 assists and 5 goals across the 6-point weekend, this week's Player of the Week, who I'd love as a guest on here, incidentally, wink wink, nudge nudge, is Romford Buccaneers' Jure Hushka. Let's have a look up north then, and the results from the Moralee Division from the weekend. Saturday 11th saw the Leeds Knights beat the Widnes Wild 7-2. A huge result in the early game as the Sheffield Scimitars beat the Hull Jets 5-4 in a shootout. Sunday didn't get much better for Hull as they went down 5-0 at the Billingham Stars in a sort of dress rehearsal for the Cup semi-final. The Skims hit the ground with a bump as they were beaten 14-1 by the Blackburn Hawks. Deeside Dragons took a 7-5 victory over the Whitley Warriors, and the same scoreline in Widnes as the Solihull Barons took a 7-5 victory in the North West. Next week, in the Moralee, they also have their Cup semi-final fixtures, as Billingham Stars and Hull Jets will go ham and hose, as will Blackburn Hawks and Deeside Dragons in an M56 derby for a place in the Cup final. There are some other fixtures up north as well next week, as I think they're squeezing some of the cancelled games in after last week's weather problems. So the Saturday also has Leeds Knights against the Solihull Barons, and the Sunday sees the Leeds Knights visit the Nottingham Lions. Let's have a little look at the Britain Division table then. Top of the tree after all of that weekend is the Slough Jets. They've played 24, won 20, 1 overtime win, 1 overtime loss and 2 defeats. Scored 143 goals. They've conceded 40. They have 63 points. In second now after the results over the weekend, the Chelmsford Chieftains played 24, won 19, 1 overtime win, 1 overtime loss, and 1 more defeat than the Slough Jets. If you look at it that way, that probably was to the Slough Jets earlier in the season. They have 60 points. The two will face off, of course, in a couple of weeks. Streatham Redhawks are in third. They've played 22, 119, 1 overtime win and 2 defeats. They scored 168, the most in the league, and conceded 30, which is the least in the league. They have 59 points, 2 games in hand on the teams above them as well, and only 4 points back. In fourth, the Solent Devils didn't get any points this weekend. They've played 17, 1 overtime win, no overtime losses, 7 defeats, scored 124, conceded 73. They have 53 points. Into fifth, the Romford Buccaneers. Not only are they now in fifth, they have a game in hand on the team below them. They've played 24, 111, 2 overtime wins, 1 overtime loss and 10 defeats. They've now scored 100 goals, but they have conceded 95 as well, so only a 5 goal difference there for Romford, but they have 38 points. They are 4 points clear of 6th place Invictus Dynamos, who have played 25, 110, 1 overtime win, 2 overtime losses and 12 defeats. They've scored 130 and conceded 96. They've got 34 points. In 7th, the Swindon Wildcats 2. They have played 25. They have won 9, 1 overtime loss and 15 defeats. Scored 69 and they have now conceded 100 goals. They have 28 points. Into 8th and currently sitting in that final playoff position, it's the Cardiff Fire. They've played 22, won 4, 1 overtime defeat and 17 defeats. They have 13 points. They have scored 49 though, so it's quite a lot lower than the Swindon Wildcats that are just above them. Well, I say just 15 points above them. Into 9th then, the Oxford City Stars. They've played more than anybody else. They've played 26, they've won 4 and they've lost 22. They have 12 points. They are just 10 goals away from the 200 mark on the conceded column. And sitting in 10th at the bottom of the table is the MK Thunder. They've played 25, they've won 1, lost 24. Now conceded 218 goals. They have 3 points. So we're not going to be seeing too many changes down that bottom end of the table because the gaps now are really clear. That bottom 3 are 15 points short of the middle 3, who are 15 points short of the 4 above them. So there is become a real sort of 3-tier divide, which I actually said that's what would happen in our sort of pre-season build-up. I thought the league would end up in 3 tiers. It's exactly what has happened. So, let's have a look at the fixtures for next weekend. Well, as you should probably all know already, everyone has a weekend off for the Britain Cup semi-finals. Saturday sees the Solent Devils hosting the Slough Jets for a 5 p.m. face-off at Gosport before heading to the hangar on Sunday. Also on Saturday, the Chelmsford Chieftains, they host the Streatham Redhawks at the Riverside for a 5:45 face-off before heading back to the High Road on Sunday. Of course, match reports from all 4 games in next week's roundup episode, and then we will be able to do a cup final build-up episode as we get closer to that, where hopefully we'll have the coach from each final team or the captains from each final team to come on separately and tell us about why their team is going to win the cup. Right, well, later this week we have Solent Devils captain Callum Perella-Fox. Head to the social medias now. If you've got a question for Callum, get it in on there. He'll be making his ZPG debut as we go deep on what's happening on the South Coast and his career in general. So looking forward to that. I want to say a massive thank you to the coaches for supplying their coaches' thoughts. As we keep saying week in, week out, and with the social media posts, we are the only podcast in the UK across any sport that has the exclusive coaches' thoughts from right across the division that we cover. And I'm very grateful for the time that they give to the podcast. Thank you for listening, and make sure you check out our partners at Hockey Artco and Manscaped, and of course check out the Sports Social Podcast Network and the latest episode of ZPG Ice Maidens, everything for the WNIHL, the only dedicated podcast to UK women's ice hockey. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.